Story 1. Our lines are busy due to an unusually high volume of calls. Story 2. I'm sorry, but a bird has just shat on you. That's not good luck. Story 3. Every word that comes from any scamvangelist such as Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, and the Lamb family is a crock of shit with flies swirling around. Yet many people are happy to gobble up that shit and give them money. Story 4. Here at our company, we are like a family. Story 5. Theology degrees are professional, but master's degrees in social work, nursing, education, and engineering are not. Story 6. I was told the Earth was only 7,000 years old when I was a kid. If you know what kind of family I grew up in. Story 7. I might be a bit older than the Reddit median, so the phrase read my lips. No new taxes is memorable to me, yet he later implemented those taxes. Story 8. Everything happens for a reason. Total crock. Sometimes life is just random and unfair. No hidden lesson, no cosmic plan. Story 9. Any advice a billionaire gives about getting rich is either from family wealth or from luck. Story 10. We want to improve employee morale. Instead of giving you a raise, here is a slice of pizza and a soda. Story 11. Everything happens for a reason. Tell that to the 4-year-olds who developed leukemia. Story 12. Sovereign citizen stuff. In the same vein, a man told me that by placing a colon in front of a statement, it supersedes all law. He said it makes the statement in the now. He was a really nice guy, but I could not believe it. Story 13. Find a job you love and you will never work a day in your life. Yeah, right. Story 14. The United States cannot afford to provide free, effective healthcare for people in poverty, let alone for the entire working population. Story 15. The orange guy saying trust me or believe me. My grandpa always said never trust or believe someone who uses those words. Story 16. Mike Johnson saying Republicans did the right thing in response to the shutdown. I did not know it was possible for someone to gaslight themselves until that moment. Story 17. The files don't exist. Get these celebrities out of here, boy. Story 18. Every day Pam Bondi speaks. She eclipses the previous day's biggest crock of nonsense. Story 19. These wipes are safe to flush and will not harm your septic system. Story 20. Stop blaming others. No, I think we should blame killers and rapists for their crimes. Story 21. Only I can fix this. Donald J. Trump. Well, that and everything else he has said. Story 22. We are not doing anything, said an ex-boyfriend who had a 19-year-old woman sharing a blanket with him because the power was out, the fireplace was lit, and she was at our house for the night. Story 23. The checks are in the mail. I love you, and I will not come in your mouth. Story 24. They are eating the dogs and cats, the pets of the people who live there. Story 25. Everything that comes out of Trump and his followers' mouths. Story 26. Find something you love, make that your job, and you will never work a day in your life. I just hate computers now. Story 27. Every day our president says the most foolish thing I have ever heard. Story 28. You should not go into the pool for at least 30 minutes after eating. Story 29. Every day Donald Trump speaks, he cannot even speak his own lies coherently. Watch an old video of the Republican debates in 2016 and compare it to today. He was always evil, but he is a shell of his former self now. Story 30. The company I work for cares about me and treats us like family. Story 31. The phrase we regret any loss of life is said by any person, company, or other organization with power where there is no chance of them being held accountable. Story 32. We are just a family here. Yes, a family of psychopaths. Story 33. My mom told me she didn't have a favorite child, but we both knew she was lying. It was the dog. Story 34. What Musk was doing was good for us and the country. Story 35. If we cut taxes for the rich, their wealth will eventually trickle down to you. Story 36. Pretty much everything the current president says or does. Story 37. If you work through lunch, we will send you home early. Story 38. This may be a sensitive subject, but some men are capable of giving birth. Story 39. I am not misogynistic or anything. It is just that men are stronger. Story 40. This is what my psycho ex used to say and threaten me with when we were dating. He claimed ties to biker gangs, Hells Angels, outlaws, pagans, Mongols, and even banditos on his Facebook account. He said all he had to do was make one phone call and I would be dead. He also claimed his whole family was protected by the Sons of Silence. I have watched enough gangland to know that none of those biker gangs are allies. There is no way one person can be in or even associated with all those groups. The even funnier part is that during the 5 years I was with him, I never saw a single biker. Neither he nor his family own motorcycles or have tattoos or anything indicating a biker gang tie. Narcissistic piece of shit. I really hope one day one of those bikers hears about this and confronts him. Story 41. Anything a corporation says about doing good, being environmentally friendly, or working with charities should be viewed with skepticism. While individuals within corporations can be good, kind, and charitable, a corporation itself exists for one thing only: to make money. If a corporation sponsors a charity or donates money, the decision is driven by optics, advertising, or tax reduction. That is fine. That is how capitalism works. There is nothing wrong with that. But it frustrates me when corporations talk about doing good or making charitable gestures out of pure kindness. It is simply not true. Story 42. When they cannot offer you a refund or replacement but still ask you to do a quick survey at the end of the call and say they would really appreciate it. Story 43. Children are not resilient. Horrible things happen, and they need treatment, not to be ignored and suppressed for later in life. Story 44. Tariffs are an import tax. Although they may be paid by foreign exporters, the cost is ultimately passed on to consumers. Story 45. We need to give billionaires tax cuts because it is good for the rest of us. Story 46. Just about everything that has come out of my ex's mouth this year. Someone pointed out that it was like listening to Trump and suddenly all my frustrations made sense. Story 47. Some people claim that sunscreen causes skin cancer and that melanoma did not exist before sunscreen. I am Australian and work in customer service. I serve many older people with obvious melanoma scars and grafts. Those who make that claim often overlook that many of the people with such scars died. Story 48. You, as a cash-paying customer standing in line, are of almost no use to most merchants. It is all about the rewards program, you providing your email address, signing up, and using their store credit card. I refuse to shop at Kohl's for this reason. Story 49. This one was for my mom. Have another child. It will help with the pain. Oh, yay. I am a sacrifice. I love my mom so much, but telling a grieving woman to have another child is terrible advice. Story 50. I got in trouble at a private school when I was 18 for wearing earrings in the dorm I paid for. The dean said, "Son, sometimes you just have to do things that you don't agree with." No, the fuck I don't. Don't call me son. Story 51. My former partner, when I confronted them after learning they had moved in with their current boyfriend and fiancé while we were still dating, said, "We were just roommates. I moved in to be closer to school, and then things unexpectedly became intimate after I broke up with you." Yeah, and I'm the Queen of France. Story 52. There is an invisible man living in the sky and he needs money. Story 53. Due to coronavirus disease 2019, our wait times are longer than expected. Thank you for your patience. This recording was made while trying to schedule an appointment with the doctor today. Story 54. If you give rich people more money, they will pass it down. Story 55. Trump has a healthcare plan he is about to reveal at any moment. Yes, it is called Do Not Get Sick or Hurt. Story 56. If you like your doctor or your plan, you can keep either. Families will save an average of $2,500 per year. Story 57. Trump does not have America's best interests at heart. He has his own. Story 58. If we confiscate all guns from law-abiding owners, it will stop gun crime. Story 59. My ex-husband was a pathological liar. No exaggeration. When my son was 8 years old, he had his phone when I called him. He saw my call and asked his father, "Who is Satan?" My ex claimed he had said Santa, and that it was his nickname for me. When my son came home, he said, "Dad has you in his phone as Santa, but spelled Satan." I thought, okay. Later I asked my ex, "Our son says you have me in your phone as Satan." He replied, "No. I saw your WhatsApp profile picture of our daughter dressed in Christmas clothes, so I decided to rename you Santa." The lamest lie I have ever heard. This was the same man who, while he was with me, was also in a relationship with another woman who later died and had a child with her. Neither she nor I knew about the other. Story 60. The cure is right around the corner or just 5 years away. Story 61. When I was little, my friend told me the average person has 20 pounds of poop in their body at any given time. Story 62. 432 Hz is the natural healing frequency of the universe. Story 63. Once a potential suitor said, "I'm working 3 part-time jobs. That way I can retire by the time I'm 50. The math didn't add up, so I backed away from that relationship. There were other red flags. Story 64. Those vibrations from millions of light years away have a greater effect on your life than what you eat for lunch. Story 65. I would have joined insert military branch here, but I would punch a drill instructor if he ever yelled at me. Story 66. I mean, it's hard to beat the whole idea that coronavirus disease 2019 is a hoax. Story 67. Anything that comes out of any politician's mouth. Story 68. You cannot put a price on a human life. Everyone has a dollar amount associated with them. Story 69. If the chief executive officers of companies are allowed to become as rich as possible, eventually the labor force will be rich as well. Story 70. There was this kid in my class who once taught a whale to jump out of its tail. Twat. Story 71. I saw you and felt an immediate connection, but you were referring to my breasts rather than my personality. This does not apply to people who show an interest visible from outside, like a band t-shirt or tattoos. When a woman wears neutral office clothes and shows no external signs of interest, it is obvious you are not interested in her personality. Story 72. I recently learned my grandfather does not believe in secondhand smoke. He thinks it is something the government made up to get people to quit smoking. He knows smoking is bad, but he justifies it as the last vice he is allowed to enjoy and is not willing to give up, since he is supposedly a recovering alcoholic. Story 73. I heard a man say with absolute conviction that pegging is when a woman defecates into a condom, freezes it, and then uses it as a dildo on the man. Story 74. I once saw a farmer argue that cutting down all the trees on their land was good for the environment. Story 75. Anything a politician says, I did not have sexual relations with that girl. Iraq has nuclear weapons. If you like your doctor, you can keep him. It will be the biggest wall and Mexico will pay for it. Story 76. My coworker has some unusual perspectives. She told me she doesn't use hand sanitizer because it pollutes lakes and oceans and kills fish, which would harm her family members who are fishermen. She also had Mexican food once and considers herself an expert. She told me that Mexican people have a secret herb they use on all their food called electro that shocks some people's mouths and makes the food spicy. For context, I live in Canada but grew up in California in an area with a large Mexican population. I ate at many taquerias growing up and learned enough Spanish to understand it in writing or conversation even if I can barely speak it myself. That experience does nothing to shake her confidence or convince her that the herb she's thinking of is probably cilantro. She likely just has the tastes like soap gene, and cilantro is widely available at grocery stores in Canada. It is popular and not a secret. Story 77. A truck driver I worked with said he had a lockup full of classic cars, but he worked for us for around $20 an hour. A guy I went to school with made a questionable claim about his past. Story 78. Almost everything anyone has ever posted on LinkedIn. Story 79. Trickle-down economics. The idea that the richer some assholes are, the better it is for everyone because they will share the wealth and reinvest that money into the economy. It was the biggest scam ever that a bunch of morons in the 1980s fell for. Story 80. When someone says, "I will pay you back as soon as I get it." Story 81. There is absolutely enough for all of us to be comfortable if some people did not hoard the lion's share. Story 82. If you just give enough, God will provide. You idiot, God provided the money already. I'm not giving it to you. Also, God does not need a tithe. Story 83. A coworker says his grandfather invented Sonic the Hedgehog, so it is probably that. Story 84. Back in 2006, my buddy's dad said the reason the economy was gonna shit was that God was punishing us for all the gays. Story 85. When I was a massage therapist, one manager wanted me to tell clients that a 60-minute massage was equivalent to 8 hours of sleep. I laughed and walked away. I only tell people what she said when I want to talk shit about that job. Story 86. You're crazy. When I caught my ex cheating, they tried to convince me I did not see what I had just seen. Story 87. I don't know if this counts, but I was about 15 or 16 when a scammer posing as a solicitor called about an urgent overdue payment for my car. I sat there like an idiot and said, "I don't own a car. I'm 16. She sounded so dumbfounded that I never got another call. Story 88. An ex-boyfriend of mine tried to get me back years after our breakup. He told me he was a foreman for a concrete company at around 23, was going back to school full-time to become an engineer of some kind, and was in the midst of opening his own vodka distillery all at the same time. He is currently homeless and working at a Domino's Pizza. His mother threw him out for stealing her jewelry and family heirlooms and selling them. True story. I wish I had made it up. Story 89. Blood is thicker than water. Your family are the first ones who will fuck you. Story 90. Trickle-down economics. Do you really think we are that stupid? Story 91. We are a family here. Yeah, well, I'm just looking for a job, not a social circle. Story 92. At insert company name, we genuinely care about our employees. Story 93. A new coworker, an 18-year-old, told us his girlfriend was the captain of a cruise ship. He lied about so many things. That was one claim that really stood out. His girlfriend was only 17. We just had to laugh. Story 94. Is there any evidence that aliens exist? It is always just talk and no actual proof. Story 95. Basically, we are in a world where it's all bullshit. Story 96. Anything Trump and his administration say is a bunch of oxygen-wasting, useless cunts. Story 97. The Remember Me option on login screens never remembers you. Story 98. I am not selling anything. I am offering a free estimate. You are soliciting my business. I want you off my private property. Story 99. Buy my course to learn how to make thousands of dollars a week. They only make money by selling the course. You will not learn anything useful or earn money. Story 100. Reddit is a great place to meet like-minded individuals. Story 101. As a person with type 1 diabetes, I am often told to try home remedies and that a family member of the person telling me no longer has diabetes because of them. My pancreas no longer works. No, cinnamon will not make my body start producing insulin again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.